An academic break has been a concept that was constantly thrown around as a suggestion in the months preceding the spread of the COVID-19 virus. We had one at the start of the pandemic for at least a month prior to starting again online, at least for us in DLSU, while other schools just outright passed all of their students in the term and prepared for the online class setup for the next term, such as schools like Ateneo. Technical issues and the increasing buildup of stress on both teachers and students in the online setting led schools and universities to take various measures for the sake of catering to the mental health concerns of the parties involved. However, we never really had a break again ever since. Metro Manila and nearby provinces were recently placed under ECQ2 Electric Boogaloo. Since it's been nearing the midterms and final seasons of most universities, the call for an academic break has garnered attention again, even going as far as becoming trending on Twitter a week ago with the hashtag academic break now. We here in PsyPoints think that it might be a timely topic to cover regarding the mental health of students during this difficult time. Just as a quick disclaimer, I've only referenced DLSU and Ateneo so far in this video, since I have friends in both schools and I'm part of one of them, so it's a lot easier for me to make my points based on what they can tell me about the current situation and what I know of the current situation. However, I want to make it clear that these aren't the only schools clamoring for a break as well, as I've seen UE and UST vouch for one in my research, for example, which they did get, by the way, so good job to the admin of both schools. So if any other schools are dying for a break and I didn't mention your university throughout the video, please let me know you're dying in the comments. Welcome to PsyPop. In this series, we'll be tackling how pop culture or something in pop culture has displayed a phenomenon where we can learn from it in the context of psychology and mental health. If you like this series and don't want to miss out on future episodes, don't forget to show us support by liking and subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to click on the bell icon to get a notification whenever we post a new video as well. To put it in perspective, first, let's look at what deteriorates the mental health of students and, as a result, their academic performance pre-pandemic. These are the famous duo of depression and anxiety. Stress is a common problem that is experienced by everyone in daily life. Stress is a part of human life, and the phenomenon is something that is unavoidable, and it depends on the person to manage or handle their stress well. Each person has a different perception about their own stress and different ways for handling it. From a positive perspective, stress may bring about a favorable impact, as stress can be perceived as a beneficial agent that motivates and encourages an individual to move forward, which is great for papers, presentations, and other school requirements. In excess, however, it can severely impact one's overall performance with unrealistic expectations and continuous strain on oneself, like aiming for a 4.0 term or something. To anyone who actually achieves that, you're a very smart and impressive person. Stress is one of the big contributing factors to one's mental health, and it must be resolved by using appropriate methods to enhance the well-being of the student. Depression is a common disorder, however, it is a serious and complex disease that affects nearly 121 million people around the world. It may involve feelings of sadness, weakness, frustration, desperation, helplessness, and hopelessness experienced by an individual. Some of the symptoms experienced by depressed individuals involve low levels of mood and dissatisfaction with anything happening around them. Most students who are depressed don't perform well in academic achievement because of the lack of motivation and inaction to realize their aims. Furthermore, those depressed students tend to think negatively and do not attempt to achieve their target. As a result of these harmful behaviors, students continue to be frustrated and give up, and thereby causing low academic achievement.
Now let's see how it looks so far.
Both come as a result of several academic-based stressors, including but not limited to financial concerns, familial expectations, academic performance and expectations, additional work from in-school orgs or part-time work, BS org, I am dying and I can say so, and other less common mental disorders. Now, why does the mental health of students' mental health deteriorate now? With the pandemic come a few additional stressors. Isolation, which due to the pandemic has become much more prevalent as it has become more difficult, and in the case of both lockdown or ECQ, electric boogaloo, illegal in most cases, to make efforts to see your friends for long periods of time. Isolation from others, such as loved ones, family, friends, co-workers, etc., can have a negative impact on one's mental health. Lack of social connections can lead to feelings of loneliness, and over time, loneliness can lead to other more severe symptoms such as decreased energy, sleep disturbances, difficulty concentrating, feelings of restlessness, feelings of hopelessness, or worthlessness. And the other is a new term called COVID-induced stress. Many of us are facing challenges that can be stressful, overwhelming, and cause strong emotions in both adults and children alike. Public health actions such as social distancing are necessary to reduce the spread of COVID-19, but they can further heighten our feelings of isolation and loneliness, and can also heighten our already existing stresses and anxieties. In truth, both pre-pandemic and current pandemic, not so different from each other as they all have similar feelings of stress and depression regardless. However, in summary, COVID-19 adds additional stress to an already stressful point in our lives, which is even more alarming when you consider that this stress is a very real and growing threat in our daily lives, and that no one knows how to alleviate it yet. Not our government, not the schools that we're in, not any of us in the Philippines. I do say congratulations to all the other countries who are now doing okay though, so Taiwan, New Zealand, yay! Now for the big question, will having an academic break help us? Well, first let's play devil's advocate and let's argue why we shouldn't have a break. Experts argue that while an academic break may help students in the short term, it may have a greater consequence for the country at large in the long term. One of the major risks of such a break would be the harm done to schools and other relevant businesses. A lack of enrollees and ongoing semesters could possibly run some education centers out of business without any means of earning. A Rappler article dated November 27, 2020 states that 865 private schools ceased operations last September 2020 and closed down due to a lack of enrollees and/or means to conduct online learning. Not every school is as equipped or able to adapt as DLSU or Ateneo, and with the sudden changes imposed, some are barely managing to run their facilities as we speak. And initiating a break may lead to them simply losing their ability to continue. Another issue related to the previous one is that many faculty members may be negatively affected in that they may lose jobs as a result of schools closing down, or a lack of need for certain faculty as the number of students starts to diminish. The same article notes that over 50,000 part-time lecturers were in need of financial assistance since the initial imposition of community quarantine last March of 2020, and if operations were to cease, so their means of accumulating the income to help survive during the pandemic themselves. And finally, there's an argument that the students may lose their momentum in learning if the academic semester were to suddenly stop. No new topics would be introduced and their minds would slowly lose the information they've gathered in class due to a lack of repetition or class requirements to test one's mastery of the topic. Learning is a consistent process, and one that, although can be done outside of the classroom, is best done within its walls. To quote the Ateneo's Director of Development Studies, Professor Jail Cornelio, you cannot just think about the students alone. You have to think of other people who will be affected. It's a balancing act. Now, let's argue why we should have one. The problems of our current situation in an academic standpoint are due to the unpreparedness of the situation and the different landscape of learning. Considering that the entire system has been running for a year, there's still multiple aspects of the learning system that still needs improvement. What makes it even worse is the current resurgence of the virus. We were placed under ECQ2 Electric Boogaloo. I love that term. A week ago because the country hasn't gotten any better since last year. More people are getting infected, and that includes students and faculty alike, making it harder for everybody to keep pushing. Up until this point, schools have been trying to push on with education as if all was still normal. The reality is that there's so much additional anxiety that comes with an online setup that still, to be honest, hasn't been perfected yet. Our education system currently isn't up to par with what was in the face-to-face classes, not just for the psychology department and other sciences that require labs and equipment only available in school to use, but for other subjects too, like law, business, and the arts, which all require some form of human interaction to be properly taught to students and anyone alike. That's not to mention the workloads we've been given are still being adjusted to the online setup, with profs who are either being too lenient or too aggressive with their workload, making students even more unmotivated. And that's assuming that your prof has been showing up to teach you. I've had profs who haven't been showing up for classes at all. And it's not even our teachers' faults. They're adjusting as best as they can to, whether they want to or not, because if they stop, who will teach their students, who will keep schools running, and who will pay their bills? This is all one big experiment, and we're guinea pigs in the project. And I'm sure pushing on will allow us to grow and be prepared for the next pandemic in the future and help accommodate people better. But if our education and treatment is an experiment that can't properly adapt throughout the years to address the concerns of the students and faculty, it will only emphasize the issues that are brought about by the online setup further. The students and faculty are not learning machines that are maarte for struggling and critiquing the current system. We are people who lose motivation when we can't see our friends after class to rant, who cry when requirements start to pile up one after another. People that are in a constant fear of losing more friends and family we may never see for yet another year. Is asking for a break such an alien and difficult concept to wrap around? But those are just my thoughts out of the many. Tell us any of your personal thoughts, whether we should continue the break or not. Is it good for our mental health to continue despite all of that? Is there research that goes against anything I've said? You're free to say your thoughts in the comments below, or if you ever share the video to hear others' thoughts. Thank you all for watching, and with the pandemic getting even worse, I just hope you all stay safe and healthy. Please have a great day, and thank you for watching.